Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. More money, more problems may be the most suitable description for the potential dangers civil society activist Dr. Yog Mahadio says are lurking as politicians become untouchable, backed by windfall revenues from the oil sector. Dr. Mahadio has been a strong critic of the lopsided 2016 production sharing agreement, which puts Guyana in an economically disadvantageous position with the offshore Stabroek Block operator. Despite numerous pleas from both local and international stakeholders for the renegotiation of the contract, the government remains reluctant to address the agreement. Dr. Mahadio said that in exchange for not renegotiating the PSA, the administration is assured massive support by the oil companies through the next elections. He said too that international watchdog groups are also beginning to internalize the troubling news that ExxonMobil and partners are calling the shots on the nation's oil industry and not the government. Meanwhile, a 35-year-old woman was on Wednesday nabbed by police during a sting operation taking a 14-year-old girl from Tushen, East Bank, Essequibo to work at a bar in Blue Mountain Back Dam, Region 7. Ranks intercepted the woman around 13 hours 30, just moments after she stepped off the boat at the bar to Castelling. They also busted her with some 438 grams of marijuana concealed in a brown haversack she was carrying. We were told that a police operation was set up to intercept the woman after detectives received information that she was involved in human trafficking. Meanwhile, Sol Guyana Inc. has lost an appeal before Madam Justice Damon F.J. Young after the payment of $2.7 billion in corporation taxes owed to the Guyana Revenue Authority. The judgment was handed down on September 30th. Sol had filed a fixed-date application seeking an order to expand the time to file an appeal in the case. According to the applicant, GRA had raised an assessment of corporation tax against it for the years 2014 to 2020, which totaled $2.7 billion. And the Auditor General of Guyana has flagged the lack of contract and price quotation in a botched fuel deal between Guyoil and an unlicensed fuel supplier. Following allegations of corruption at the state-owned company, Guyoil Chairman of the Board of Directors, Paul Chiang, had written to the Auditor General Office on April 2021, requesting that an audit be conducted into the alleged procurement of fuel by Guyoil from Aaron Royalty Inc. According to the special audit findings, 4 Guyoil officials had breached procurement protocols to engage with an unlicensed company for the supply of heavy fuel oil, even in the absence of a contract and a price quotation. And in other news, amid high inflation here, President Ali on Thursday announced a $28,000 one-off cash grant for each old age pensioner before the end of the year. The one-off grant will provide an additional $1.8 billion in disposable income to the nation's pensioners, the Guyanese leader told the nation in a televised address. In the address, President Ali said this new measure adds to the host of measures, policies and programs being implemented by the PPPC administration to improve the lives of senior citizens. And now let's tell you, the Guyana Teachers Union said a number of teachers have been opting for early retirement due to poor working conditions and the government not respecting agreements and their rights. As such, the union called for the proper renegotiation of teachers in the country for their hard work and dedication in helping to build a nation. The union's call was made in its World Teachers' Day message last Wednesday. Just before we head to a short break, let's tell you that persons constructing homes costing up to $25 million will soon be able to benefit from cement and steel as part of the government's Home Builders Support Initiative. CEO of the CHNPA, Sherwin Greaves, said the government is expected to invest approximately $700 million in the program by the end of the year. In July, President Ali announced that persons constructing homes costing $6 million or less will be given the steel needed and 1 sling of cement for the construction of the foundation. For home builders spending $6 million to $25 million, the government will provide 2 slings cement. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 12 in Guyana. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Not a single bar of service.
Not with us. Digicel officially has the best mobile coverage in Guyana. Be it in Aishalton or in Etteringban, we got you covered. Digicel, better together.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Aslam Masood, a 44-year-old truck driver, was on Thursday jailed for 5 years after admitting that he had caused the death of a city businessman, 46-year-old Nigel Cush, by driving dangerously. After the charge was read to him, Masood did not waste the court's time and pleaded guilty to the offense. It is understood that he apologized for his reckless driving, which caused Cush's tragic demise. He also related that on the night of the accident, he was overcome with sleep and lost control of the sand truck he was driving. And with local government elections just months away, civil society group Oil and Gas Governance Network, or OGGN, has joined calls for the use of electronic voting in future polls. The group has pointed Guyana to neighboring Brazil, which it said recently conducted elections with its more than 200 million citizens, but was still able to give the result of the process in less than 12 hours. In a public comment, group member Andre Brandley said that Brazil has been using electronics in voting for more than a century, and it has worked quite well for the millions of people using the electoral system. He highlighted that many of the instances relating to electoral fraud has been removed or reduced due to the use of the system, and urged that Guyana take its cue in this regard. And in other news, police on Thursday charged the boyfriend of the Lagrange woman who was found dead last Friday. The defendant, identified as Ryan Johnson, had reportedly confessed to choking the woman, 33-year-old Nirmala Sukai, to death on Friday last. Johnson made his first court appearance virtually at the Wales Magistrates Court on the west bank of Demerara. The indictable charge of murder was read to him by Magistrate Faith McGusty, and he was not required to plea. Johnson has been remanded to prison until October 27th. He identified himself as Sukai's boyfriend and confessed that he had choked her to death during an argument over another man. And it is time we close things off with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News, dedicated to, of course, being blunt. Do PPP leaders stand for anything these days? The PPP in recent years do not celebrate October 5th, the so-called return to democracy, like they did before. Perhaps an acknowledgement that the hard work of Cherry Jagan is being undermined daily by this new breed of Freedom House leaders. Look at Oil Guyana today. The people who loved Jagan now attack those who mention what he stood for and against. The Yanks win again, always win. With leaders that can't stand straight, can't look straight in the eye, can't speak straight. They are good at counting their chips, which can be changed for wads of cash. Now the clarion call is up with capitalism, down with doomsayers and naysayers questioning capitalism's crimes and criminals. The latter are politicians, the caste of pundits and the oil men running rackets here. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands.